What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. It's time to break out your healing crystals and mason jars and other 2019 appropriate witchy jokes as well for min-maxing for fun and profit. One of the classes that got the most changes in Pathfinder 2nd Edition in this playtest, the Witch. I still don't really know how to feel about this one, but I'm okay with that because the new incarnation is actually kind of cool. So, if you're liking what you're seeing, like, subscribe, ding the bell. Yeah, my bed's unmade. And here's why. I blame that little dude. Today, this episode of Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit was brought to you in part by one of our newest patrons. Whoop whoop. I can't believe I just said that on my channel. God, who am I? Texas Juggalo. Thanks for your support, man. Hope to see you in our game soon. Now, here we go. Okay, so in Pathfinder 1st Edition, the Witch, and by virtue of the Advanced Class Guide, the Shaman, were both, some people out there might be a little surprised to hear me use this term, but I think it's definitely reasonable, overpowered. Several non-patrons have asked for a Witch in 1st Edition, min-maxing for fun and profit. Honestly, one of these weeks where I need to jam out like a 5-minute video in that slot. I'll tell you exactly why I think witches get stitches. But they were just so good that they would break the party. Honestly, when I did the optimized party a million years ago, had I known the power of the Witch, both of the control mages, would have just been witches, shamans, anything with that fortune, misfortune, cackle power, because it's terrifying. So terrifying that in 2nd Edition, absolutely I was expecting this class to receive a nerf. What I wasn't expecting was for the Witch to turn out the way it did. To be honest with you, it almost feels like an entirely different class to me. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it took a little head scratching for me to really wrap my head around this one. The aesthetic is maintained, but no longer are we looking at a class that's snap your fingers, take something out of the encounter forever. Do we have debuff power? Yes. Do we have magic? Yes. But to be honest with you, in 2nd Edition, the Witch feels a little more versatile, albeit perhaps at the cost of that power. One of the things I'm the most into for the Witch, and I think this is something you can apply to any of the classes with bloodlines, rage powers, blah 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 in 1st Edition or any other system, it's not one set thing that gets 3 powers as you level. Rather, the Witch's basic lesson then ticks to a greater and major, and you choose from those tables which one you want. I think from a narrative standpoint, that's amazing if we apply it to, say, the Sorcerer. In Pathfinder 1st Edition, maybe you want some draconic stuff, maybe you want some celestial stuff, and certainly from a narrative standpoint, that makes the character very, very unique. To be honest, I gotta thank each and every one of you for this one, because there were a lot of people comment on my initial Witch video. The thing about the Witch and the cackle ability, which lets you sustain a spell without the concentrate trait, means you in fact can sustain a spell while raging, which definitely was not the character I thought I was building, but so be it. Here we go. Witch with Barbarian dedication for sweet gishy power. I don't know. Maybe I'm typecasting myself. Y'all know I like to cast Greatsword, and if it can shock and grasp at the same time, it's a win-win. But let's dive right in, shall we? Remember, patronage at any tier gets you access to a Google Sheet that our class, ancestry, and general feats are on, as well as a bunch of other sweet stuff for our ancestry. There was a lot of choices go back and forth across the table. To be honest with you, I came so close to the Hobgoblin this time because the buffs to Constitution and Intelligence are basically everything we want. However, and we've talked about it already, being adopted by halflings is really good, and with our 6 hit points and our penchant for being up where people might stab us, I think I need to prioritize a higher hit dice as well as that mountain stoutness. So once again, we're looking at a dwarf. It's your call in terms of what heritage and things. We'll talk about our ancestry feats in a little bit. For that first lesson, the lesson that will define our casting tradition, though we get both of them eventually, I think I want to start with the lesson of curses. Our very first lesson will give us access to Evil Eye. For 2 actions, a range of 30 feet. Most of our hexes want us to be pretty close anyway, so it seems like gishy goodness is right up our alley. Targeting one creature with a will save, sustained up to a minute, or as long as you're laughing your butt off. You fix your eye on the target, They become frightened based on the result of their will save. This value cannot be reduced while the spell is active and you can see the target. Frightened 1 on a success, Frightened 2 on a failure, Frightened 3 on a crit fail, and Unaffected on a crit success. Stack an enormous debuff. I think it's amazing that the Witch is an occult spellcaster. I think that makes more sense than the Bard, to be honest with you. For the Witch, it certainly makes sense to me. For those class feats, of course, the full caster gets not a 1 at first, and at second, we will go ahead and grab that Barbarian dedication. We'll choose the Dragon Totem, you'll see why in a sec. Honestly, this has some parallels with our Draconic Sorcerer build that we did as well. But again, not only does it work really well, it allows us to hit a little harder with the weapons we're swinging at folks, and actually has some synergy with the Witch. Gee, I wonder if they did that on purpose. At 4th level, we will take the Second Lesson class feat. This will increase the number of focus points in our pool by 1 and grab us another hex. We will grab the Fate Hex. The Fate Lesson, you knew you'd see it from Tommy, didn't you? Nudge Fate. For 2 actions, targeting 1 creature out to 30 feet, you tug at the strands of fate, aiding an ally or hampering a foe. Choose either Fortune or Misfortune and 1 type of roll. Attack roll, saving throw, skill check, or Perception. On the target's next roll of that type, while the spell persists, they must roll twice. If you choose Fortune, it's advantage. If you choose Misfortune, it's disadvantage. The spell ends, the target is immune for 24 hours, and it's that immunity for 24 hours and only used once thing that I still really want Halfling Luck, Guiding Luck, just to hedge our bets a little harder. I'm sure I'll make a video with my patrons about what shenanigans rolling with advantage and disadvantage can do. Probably going to tie right in with that Witches Get Stitches video. It's just really good. At level 6, we will grab Greater Lesson. By level 6, we've got 3 points in the focus point pool. That was fast. That was really fast. And we'll choose the Greater Lesson Elements to get the Elemental Betrayal Hex and also a bunch of other spells as well. We don't really care about the spells. I guess we care about the spells. The spells are neat, but this build is more about its ability to debuff and then punish you for it. Elemental Betrayal. Now that I'm done rambling about that, 2 actions, 30 feet, target 1 creature, fort save, sustained up to a minute. If the creature fails their save, they get weakness 3 to acid, cold, electricity, or fire chosen by you. On a critical failure, the weakness is doubled. Heightening this increases the weakness by 1. Pretty neat, right? Yeah, I thought so too. Even neater, combine it with the Instinct ability feat from the Barbarian archetype, which gives us the Instinct ability for the instinct we chose. Remember how I said we chose the dragon one? Yeah. The instinct ability there is, whilst raging, you can increase the additional damage from rage from 2 to 4 and change its damage type to match that of your dragon's breath weapon instead of the damage type for your weapon or unarmed attack. If you do this, it gains the Arcane and Evocation traits, as well as the trait matching the damage type. Not only is that super flavorful, oh, I don't know, maybe for a dwarf that's been exiled from their clan and lives out in a swamp, because there are a lot of like swamp witch shenanigans in this class. Maybe you enter the service of a black dragon, maybe you learn to channel the black dragon's power, or like whatever element you want, to be honest with you. Whatever you think will see the most play in your campaign. When we strike someone, that strike now does extra damage, to say nothing if we're critting them. Oh, I don't know, maybe by fortuning ourselves first? Sure, we can't sustain it forever, but it is what it is. Extra damage looks good on everyone. I just really didn't think I was going to see that here. We will take Barbarian Resiliency next. It will be our very last archetype feat that will grab us 3 additional hit points for each Barbarian archetype class feat you have, so this feat nets us 9 hit points. 9 hit points isn't necessarily a whole heck of a lot, but when we stack it with things like mountain stoutness, toughness, it could be a difference between life and death. We've got another couple of outs here, and one of them is next at level 12. We will take Major Lesson, choosing Boundaries for the Draw Boundary Hex. This hex, if it existed in Pathfinder 1st edition, would be what I would probably call a yellow feat. Situational and meh, but in 2nd edition, it seems really good to me, given the relative strength of abilities like this. For 3 actions, out to 30 feet, sustained up to a minute, you establish a boundary to prevent certain creatures from crossing. Cast chalk, sand, paint, powder, or another substance to form an unbroken line on the ground up to 20 feet long. This line can take any shape, including a circle. While drawing the line, choose one side of the line to be warded and designate one type of creature: aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, fiend, monitor, or undead. A creature with the designated trait can't willingly cross the line to the warded side, including to make strikes targeting a creature on the far side without succeeding at a will save. Each time it attempts to cross that line, it must attempt a will save. If it fails, it cannot cross the line during that action. A creature that doesn't have the designated trait or that has passed the save at least once can scuff a portion of the line with an interact action, in which case the spell ends. So, best case scenario, you've cost something 2 actions. We're level 12 by the time we get this, so things very reasonably could be slowed, and it could be just you lose a turn, which in the grand scheme of action economy, something we'll probably find time to describe around end of the month, beginning of 2020, because I know there are a lot of new people out there, could be enough. With that in mind, one of our biggest defenses, and one of the reasons almost the Hobgoblin was a better choice over the Dwarf, against attacks is that we don't want to be up close to things, start out at a long spear, and stab through the line at things that cannot come at you. If they do come at you, stab over the champion's shoulder at things on the other side of the champion. Right, you see where I'm going with this? Should things succumb to your save, so definitely prioritize your intelligence to make sure it is as high as possible. They're stuck while you stab at them. I'm betting 20 feet of line, which heightens as we level, is enough in a lot of maps to either just draw a circle around something and pin them in while you surround and kick them in the face till they're dead, cut a hallway in half. It's like a wall of force that the party doesn't care about. Oh, also we got wall of force this level, so if this doesn't work, there is a backup plan. Further, I don't think very often you're gonna see encounters where there are multiple enemy types. I could be wrong, but by level 12, most of the things you're fighting, short of like powerful dragons, and it's anathema if we don't go deal with them, I'm pretty sure, it's still a really wide swath of things. If you were to ask the Archives of Nethys, and you searched for monsters from level, I'll say 10, because I feel like 9 or less is negligible to your party by this point anyway, through 25 that do not have these traits, it reads as 74, but that's because the Hamadryad has the Fey and Humanoid template. As of the 11th of December 2019, there are 73 creatures out of the 473 possible monsters in the entire printed catalog of Pathfinder 2nd Edition that can cross this line without worrying about it or burn an action to break the line. That's 15% of them. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this hex will see use. Even if it just stops something for a turn, that turn is probably enough. Patron's Knowledge is next. That allows us to go back and grab some hexes we may have missed. We wouldn't be a witch without Slumber. Of course, again, not near as good, but Veil of Dreams for 2 actions, out to 30 feet, targeting 1 creature. Targeting that will save. The target is either unaffected on a crit success, has a -1 status penalty to perception and attack rolls on a success, a -1 status penalty to perception and attack rolls, and gets fatigued for the duration on a failure. Fatigued is probably the scariest condition in Pathfinder 2e. The whole reason the playtest Barbarian was so bad was because when you hit this, you were big danger mode. And on a crit failure, you're also slowed 1 for the duration. That's an enormous debuff. Effortless Cackle comes next. It's like Effortless Concentration, but you can be real angry. Strict upside. You really wanted Patron Wellspring next, but we missed a prereq, so we'll just take the prereq and be happy with it, I guess. Lesson of Focus. If you've spent at least 2 focus points since the last time you refocused, you get 2 back instead of 1. Since this class will be vomiting focus points at things, seems super relevant to grab those back. And you could take Patron Wellspring for a 3-for-1, sure, but I think Echoing Cackle just has to win for the capstone. The sound of your laughter continues to echo and reverberate throughout the area, extending your hexes with no effort on your part. When you cackle, Effortless Cackle made that a free action, by the way, all hexes you have active with a sustained duration have their durations extended to a total duration of 1 minute or their maximum duration, whichever is shorter. Your Echoing Cackle can't extend the duration longer than 1 minute. After that point, you need to continue cackling or sustaining the spell as normal. For spells that normally require a decision or create an effect when you sustain them, if you rely on Echoing Cackle to sustain them, the effect occurs at the end of your turn, and they repeat whatever decisions you already made. All of your hexes are extended for 10 rounds. I bet that's the combat, freeing you up to do more than what I imagine the mid to late-ish game looks like, as like after the hexes are all set, cackle, cackle, cackle with your bonus action from haste, strike. For those Ancestry feats, Vengeful Hatred right off the top, probably not the worst for the person with the least armor class who's trying to hit people. You're probably gonna get crit, so take that buff. Then it's Halfling Luck, Guiding Luck, Mountain Stoutness, Shared Luck. And for the general feats, yeah, we're adopted by halflings. We're Toughness, we're Die Hard, we're Canny Acumen for the fort. None of that has really changed. You've heard me talk about this a million times, but I missed this with the Sorcerer when I made the Necro Gishmaster thing. Armor proficiency is probably something we should grab. Now, having a really high constitution is important. That's why we have Mountain Stoutness and our Dwarf. At the end of the day, I'm pretty sure you're going to be blocking most of the damage coming at you with your big babushka energy. That is to say, your hit points. But having a little bit of armor class probably doesn't hurt. If nothing else, it makes you a little crit proof. And that's all 4 of them. What do we think? Are we playing the playtest characters still? How do we feel about 2nd edition still? Throw it in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm gonna do some 1st edition videos. I have a lot of back patron requests for 1E, so we'll probably be on 1st edition for a little while, unless the patrons are like, no, Tommy, you go back, you fix this. So next week we're optimizing alcohol of all things. I'm still surprised it's playable. Memes are dreams. I'll see you next week.